No.
Hello,
Hey,
friends.
we're so live right now. What a live life.
Good morning. Hey, everyone. We are all here in the house, in the building, in the screen to chat with you all today. We're so excited to be here. How's
Yeah,
everyone
we are.
doing? Let us know in the chat where you are tuning in from while we give a little bit of a update about how things are going. But let us know where you're tuning in from. And what else? What else do we want to know from people today, guys?
We
Um,
want to know. I don't know. What do we
I
want to
got
know?
nothing.
Oh
We always
my
ask what camera
gosh.
you're using. I don't know.
Boring.
I know that is boring. What about what is your dream? No,
Dream
I got nothing.
vacation. Dream vacation. Where are you from? Dream vacation. That always interests me.
Dream vacation. That's a good one.
Yeah.
Like to where or doing what?
Destination. Yeah. What
Destination.
what
Oh,
destination is your
destination.
like?
Oh, and then we can do a workshop in wherever the top. No, okay.
Oh, yeah. Just keep saying it, friends. Well, hello, Barry in the house, Denise, Brian, Ben, Bob, Ryan, Marcel. Thank you for being here, everybody. Will and Sam, how are you guys doing?
I'm doing great. Yeah, I'm doing well.
Nice.
I'm
What does
doing
that mean?
great
What yeah,
too.
what does great mean?
Yeah.
I don't know. You just asked how we're doing. I've been just at home, not traveling whatsoever, doing yard work, hanging with my dog,
Sounds pretty
getting a
nice.
bunch of work done. So yeah, it's been kind of nice to not be on the road. Although, granted, all my cameras have just been in bags for the past week.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, but yeah. Outside of that, greatness,
Nice.
all good. Yeah.
Good. Will, you are sick.
I'm good, but yeah, I'm coming off cold a little bit, so I don't know how active I will be today. I thought I could hobble over here from the bed and say hi to you guys, but I've been traveling nonstop, including the wedding in Italy, and then I had a wedding in Texas this weekend. In Houston, it was very hot, but I got a lot of good photos. And I met a videographer that has taken a bunch of our classes, which was super fun.
That's so cool.
uh, to meet somebody in the wild that is part of our community. I was like, "Are you on Photo Friends Plus?" He's like, "No, what's that?" I was like, "Dude, what are you doing?" But he's a video guy, not a photo guy. So,
Video Friends Plus.
Video Friends Plus. By the way, do we mention that it went down for a hot second earlier? Do we even talk about what Photo Friends Plus is? Because some people might be joining.
Oh yeah, that's true. Well, you can join Photography and Friends Plus for free. This is if you're tuning in from just YouTube or Facebook. It's plus.photographyandfriends.com. But that's our community where you can join. You can post questions, photos, take part in our challenges. A lot of our friends here are already in the group, which is great. It was down earlier today, and that was just a site-wide thing, but it looks like it's back up right now, which is good because we're going to be going over photo challenges in just a second. We're going to be going over 4 of the past photo challenges, pick our favorites, do some critiques and stuff like that. But if you're not on Plus, definitely head over there. Always fun stuff going on. Will, you're running the lighting boot camp right now. That's right in the middle. That sounds like that's really epic.
It's been great.
Yeah, always fun stuff going on over there. So, and I just want to say thank you to the members who really the past couple months have picked up the slack from, I will admit, myself, and keep it active, engaging, answering questions, and doing all the things as, we all have like busy lives sometimes. I'm glad that it's like a place that people can, that's there for people to participate in. And, well, we want to be more active too, but just thank you to everyone who does stay on there and keep it active. And special thank you to our supporters. So these are all of our supporting members.
I love that it just covers your face.
Really, really appreciate it. You can support the platform and become a supporter. It's $5 a month. And there's a link on the side of the Plus community to become a supporter. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Any other
Thank you.
updates or anything before we
uh,
dive into things?
I don't
People
have any
are,
updates other than they came out with a silver Leica SL2 today that I'm lusting over, but I will not purchase.
yeah.
That's nice, well. That's nice.
I don't know. I don't know. I was trying to think of camera updates. I got nothing.
There are people saying their dream destination. We've got kayaking, the Boundary Waters. What's the Boundary Waters? I don't even know what that is. In Canada? That's cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nice.
Like, yeah. It's a huge, massive, like million-acre park that you can just like go out into, and yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. Dude,
Viking.
the Rhineland, doing a
Yeah,
cruise ship in
Viking
the
River
Rhineland.
cruise down the
Yeah.
Rhine. Sam and I, we studied in Bonn. We did a little boat cruise down the Rhine for a little day trip. I was actually just thinking about doing that with the kids because they were like, I don't know, we were looking at castles or they were talking about castles, and I was like, do you know I went somewhere where there were a bunch of castles? And I was like, how fun would that be to go down the Rhine and just see all these castles? That was fun. Oh, life. That was like 12 years ago now or something like that. Crazy.
That's
Anyways,
weird.
let's if people have questions, throw them at us
Yeah.
whenever. We'll just pause and take questions, but in the meantime, I'm going to bring up the challenge of reflection, which was quite a few weeks ago. We'll start out with that one. And let's see. This might take a second. Just blah, blah, blah. Let's get Sam
I have a
back
question
up
in the
here.
meantime if you want.
Is there a question?
I have a question.
Oh, you have a question. Yeah. Go
Have
ahead.
either of you ever shot on black and white double X negative Cinestill film before?
Not that I can
No.
Well,
recall.
then you won't be
I,
helpful.
I've shot on Cinestill, but not their double X black and white. What does double X mean?
I think
Double
it's
exposure?
well, that's what I'm trying to figure out. I think it's like multiple ISO. Like you can shoot it at multiple ISOs, but I didn't realize it was like a particular ISO or not. So I was just asking around, but we can talk about it later.
Asking for a friend?
No, for me, I loaded it
Oh.
into this cool M7 I'm borrowing from a friend that I just thought I'd try it today.
That's fun.
Yeah.
I
So-
wonder how many people, and I don't know who all here, but like, do people shoot on film? Are people
Yeah,
interested
lots
in
of people
shooting on
do.
film? Not a lot of people. I mean, people do, but is it a lot of people? I don't know.
I don't think a lot of people. I'm just going to go out on a limb and say not a lot of people. But, it's kind of like records. It's like maybe it's making a comeback. There's still like a small niche of people using it, and then maybe someday it'll come back. It's just so expensive. I just don't think people have, extra money right now to be spending money on film processing. Anyways, reflections. Do
I
you
like
guys
that
have
one.
a favorite photo that you want me to show? Because I had a couple, but
I really like Leo's there.
Yep.
But Craig and Julie's towards the top were two that just really stood out. I really liked, I think it's Craig's who had the bridge.
Craig, yes.
It's like
I
the
like that one
second
too.
photo, I
This
think.
one.
That one. Because it's like a cool reflection, but you get the under the water reflection there as well.
Yeah.
I would have liked to probably see a little wider just to get the full bridge in there on the top. But I don't know. I really like the foreground look with the rocks and all that stuff. I feel like it's cool one.
I kind of like this one because the subject, or I don't know if you call it the subject, but the main focus is more the reflection than the actual object itself.
Yeah.
So I like these ones that are like very symmetrical. This one's great, Julie.
Yeah.
That's a really nice photo.
Yeah. A beautiful place.
It's a little bit orangey. I don't know, kind of over processed colors maybe to me, but Norm, this one I was trying to understand. Where is the reflect?
It looks like a mirror.
It's like some kind of
Mhm.
mirror.
It's like
Oh,
a
is it like
bent
two
mirror.
mirrors and then
Yeah, like at a corner of a mirror or something like that.
yeah,
So
and
there's
it's
only
just like
one flower.
that's crazy.
Yeah.
That's fun.
It's
That's
like
a
one
lot
of
of
those
fun.
mirror mazes at the carnival. Will, was there any other ones that you want to bring up? Like this one, I was thinking I would have liked to see more of this is probably at like a zoo or something like that where you might not have a bunch of options for where you can stand, but having more of like that symmetrical look with the water being higher in the frame and being able to see the full reflection of the flamingos, I think would have uh, been a little bit better for me.
Becky's and Julie's are probably my two favorite.
All
Uh,
right, so here's Becky's. Oh, black and
Becky's
white,
because she,
nice.
well, she also felt like she was inspired by Ansel Adams, and I think like she nailed it. I think it'd be like a tad higher exposure, but the like grayscale is like pretty rad.
Yeah,
And Julie's is kind of the same shot, but in color and the reflection of the thing.
was Julie the first one? You mean that we
Yeah,
talked
the
about
first one.
already?
Sorry, I had to
Yeah,
sneeze. Yeah, Julie's is cool too. The colors and the reflection of the sky is really cool. And I don't know if she had a polarizer on there at all, but like you can kind of see through the water, but you also can't. And I really
yeah,
like that.
yeah, yeah. Cool. I wonder where this. Did she say where this is? That's really pretty
Norway?
place. Cool. Well, we'll go on to the next challenge, but we got a couple questions. First, how do you join? Someone asked how Dickinson Eckhart asked, how do I join Photography and Friends Plus? Super easy. Just head over to plus.photographyandfriends.com. This is the platform. And when you sign in or when you get to that page, you can just sign in and this is what it looks like. We got all of our different community spaces where you can post questions, ask questions about gear. If people here are, I know a lot of the members here are on Plus. It's been a little while since we opened up Plus to everyone and we reorganized the spaces. So if anyone has like suggestions or ideas for anything, like if there's a space that's missing or if there's one that you realize like is confusing or you just don't use or people don't seem to be using, let us know because we are happy to sort of rearrange spaces and create new ones or anything like that. So it's just been a decent amount of time, so it might be due for a little bit of a refresh or edit. But there was also a couple other questions. Let's get to. Okay, here we got one. Is this Jessica? Has a posing question. I have an engagement shoot coming up, and one partner is taller than the other by 1.5 feet, and I'm
Nice.
struggling with figuring out how to pose them. Any tips? Ooh, that's a
Yeah.
good question.
That's a good one.
Yeah, I've run into that a couple times. I think the best thing to do for that, depending on who's taller and who's shorter, is a lot of times I'll have the taller partner sit down, either in a chair or lean against a wall, and have the shorter partner lean against them or lean into them. That's usually like a really good way to like bring them to the same height. The object is to get at least their heads within the same height. So if they sit on like a little like ledge or like a wall, either person really, I think the shorter person could sit on like a wall and have the tall person come up next to them and just have something for them to like basically add height to the shorter person in a sitting position, or to take away height by having the taller person also in a sitting position where you can bring them up. So it's kind of like have one sit and not sit depending on how high your sitting apparati is, and then have the other person lean into them. Another good way would be to have the taller person kind of hug the shorter person from behind. That'll naturally bring their face down. Usually they'll bend over just to be closer to that person, and that's also a really good way. Those would be the two quickest, best ways that I would do it.
Cool. Solid answers. Um, Bill asks another great question. When doing a portrait or wedding job, if you use a cheaper third party lens on, say, a Sony, would a customer notice it in the final outcome?
Absolutely not.
Yeah, I don't think a customer. I mean, the only problem is if it makes it harder for you to, I guess, if that lens is slower or something like that, you can't get focus enough as
Yeah,
fast, or if it's not as good in low light. But like in terms of like, if you can get a good sharp photo, I don't know if
I'd
anyone's
say
gonna.
I'd say like it all as long as you're doing your craft and like exposing correctly and creating wonderful shots with good storytelling and compositions, like it's not really going to matter to your customer. If you go and look at my wedding portfolio, I would love to know if you could pull out what our first party lenses and what
Yeah.
our third party lenses. Even now, the wedding I shot on Saturday in Houston, I'm using one. I'm shoot on a Leica, and I have one Leica lens that I use, and then I have an 85 from Sigma, and I have a 70 to 200 from Panasonic, and no one can tell. I can, but no one else can tell.
That's yeah. I don't think that's
Sorry,
anything to
on a
worry about.
soapbox
These
there.
third party,
Oh, yeah.
brands are so good now, like Sigma.
Yeah, they're great
I
and
wonder
they're
what
affordable.
brand you're talking about, but yeah, these other sometimes they're even better, or just as good. We'll answer a couple more questions before we talk about the toys photo challenge, which is a fun one. Let's see. Paul asks, shot my first wedding 3 weeks ago. The question I have is that the sun was so strong, the reflection off
Oh yeah,
the skin made it look like every skin was greasy. So,
yeah, that's rough. I would say like the weddings that I've been in where you get into a situation like this, you said there's no cover at all. First of all, yeah, get them in the shade. The only other thing you can do is make sure the sun is backlighting them, like the sun is behind them, so that at least it's just lighting the tops of their heads and their shoulders, and then you'll be overexposed in the background, but at least you'll see their faces. That being said, a lot of times you have to shoot these family portraits at like noon on a Saturday, so it'll be very top heavy. But the best thing to do is just find shade, like you just have to, or put the sun behind them
mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah,
because sun on their faces directly is just not gonna. No one's gonna win. Eyes are gonna be closed, even if they look good. Like they'll be squinting. Like it's just very difficult.
Congrats on shooting your first wedding, though. That's
Yeah, I'd be so
a big
curious.
first step.
Paul Cook, did you take the wedding course from us, or are you interested? Or yeah,
hello, Etienne. Thank you for being here from Brussels. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you for everyone for being here. One last question before we look at the toy photo challenge. Frank is beginning to learn photography. Can I adequately learn the basics using an ancient Canon PowerShot G3 camera? So this is like an old point and shoot
ancient.
camera, and I think you can definitely learn how to use the manual settings, understand them. I think where you'll be held back is especially in the lessons if you're taking the photography masterclass or our different courses where we're talking about different lenses and potentially like getting shallow depth of field with a open aperture. That's where that camera is not going to hold up, and you'll really need to focus on the basics of photography like composition and editing, which plays just as important role or more important than lenses and storytelling. So absolutely I would say you can use that camera. You I wouldn't be surprised if at some point you start to feel like it holds you back from getting certain styles of photos that you see that you might want to get. Any other thoughts?
Yeah, no, I agree. I just looked it up, and yeah, you can take photos in manual setting. You can use aperture priority. It has an equivalent of a 24 to 600 millimeter lens. So like, if you pay attention to the learning the ISO, the shutter speed, the f stops, like what millimeter focal length are you using, like pay attention to those things, start diving into it, learning it, and like Phil said, there might just be a point where the quality or you know being able to change lenses comes into play. But yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Uli Ant, you asked about the Midjourney bot. I'm gonna send you this doc page. Check that out if that helps. If that doesn't help, let me know. But let's get to the toys photo challenge, and I'm going to bring up my one of my favorites to start.
Cool.
This is
Yeah.
from Lauren Brown. The scene that you set up. There were
Yeah.
two where the scene was really set well for these photos, and I really appreciate the time taken in this one to capture this Star Wars scene. Love it. So lighting's great, the background, just everything, even getting the
Yeah.
rocks and the little greenery, so good.
It's amazing without that red splash in the background, how different this photo would be. And like that's such a subtle thing, but I don't know if they have a light off to the side or
I love
how
it.
they did that, but
Yeah.
like that adds a lot. And thinking of those types of things, you're not just lighting the subject, but also the background. Um, and obviously a very fun scene. Um, Maybe we'll
Yeah.
have added a little bit of space to the right and left, or just
Yeah.
brought in the Legos a little bit, just to have a little more, so they're not quite kissing the edges as much.
Yeah.
But it's a small
Agreed.
thing. Yeah,
Yeah. You guys have any other favorites? There was one with
that
the this one right
that
here,
one right there. Yeah, I
Shannon.
just it's like such. I really like this toys one. It's like a fun concept. But this one just seems like such a like professional looking photo that would be a great portrait of someone, but it's a little stuffed
Yeah.
flamingo, which I just, yeah, it nice composition, like fun fall off, you know, sun sort of to the back, sidey light.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, it's a nice photo. I like this
Marco
one.
Fernandez, that one too, with the Superman. I think it's at the top. Uh,
Yeah.
same for the same reasons, right? Like it's sort of
Right.
like spotlighting with like the background is kind of
A little bit
cool, and
of
then the shadows
hairlight.
like falling off on
Mm-hmm.
the right side of his face, like a normal human's face would be. But the pose is right, and there's like an eye light. I
Yeah.
just think
Yeah.
it's like kind of a cool like way to shoot a little toy. Very
I
cool.
like the other one I liked was this one with right here, David with the T-Rex chasing
Yeah, that one's good. I
was
wish I was cropped a
Russell
little bit.
or what is his name
Yeah,
from Up?
Russell.
Yeah.
I wish the top was cropped a little bit because I think it would add more to the
Yeah.
vibe.
I think it's also you could have pushed up the saturation, the desaturated look. Everything kind of blends together a little bit more. Maybe make it a little more contrasty as well, just so that the yellows and oranges pop a little bit more. Because the dino kind of does fall kind of into the
Yeah.
background, which is kind
And
of
this
cool
is,
too. But
yeah, one, this is the whole lighting thing, right? Of helping your subject stand out and like, um, even if they were behind like a little to the right where there's all those sticks and stuff, which is darker, like maybe it,
mm,
well, actually maybe the dinosaur would disappear even more then, but um helping the light to sort of have them stand out, or putting the T-Rex like up above on one of those rocks or something. But
yeah.
yeah,
But this was definitely a
it's
fun one.
fun.
Thank you
Yeah,
for participating. A lot of, I mean, all these with the lighting and stuff. Captain America, this
Yeah,
pretty
that
good.
backlighting's good.
Yeah,
yeah, yeah, that's fun.
nice. If anyone has question, and there were a couple more questions, pop in your questions in the chat. We'll hit those up before we get to the next challenge. But thank you to everyone who participated in this one. And shout out to, let's see, there were a couple new people. Merrick from Czech Republic. Thank you for being here. Whoop whoop.
I see a couple questions.
All right, questions.
You have to pull them up though.
Arkisman
There you go. That's the one I was looking
is
at.
the Nikon 18 to 105 with the D5100. Good for learning.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, learn with whatever you have. I don't, yeah. Yeah, just learn
Yeah.
with whatever you have.
I
I think a lot of people learn with that type, that lens and camera or a comparable model
Yeah.
and
I
lens.
I started with the D80 and a 18 to 200, and that for when I first got started, like that was my everything camera is like I love having the focal range and I how Nikon sets up their cameras. They're I mean D5100 is far beyond the D80 now, but yeah, great camera to start with, and eventually you'll probably want to get a prime lens or a faster zoom lens, but good place to get started.
Yeah. Shout out to the Big Z fam. Thank you for being here. As always, appreciate it. Anyone going on any photo adventures this weekend? What's going on this weekend? Anybody watching, doing anything fun, practicing and trying to practice anything? Let us know. Any other questions? Were there any other questions that I missed?
Here's one. Good morning. In wedding photography, do you shoot manual or automatic? Do you see that one?
Oh yeah,
Ricardo. Sorry. Yeah. I actually, I can make an, I don't know, after doing this like shadowing on concert photography with David Bergman, I can make an argument for manual, but I actually shoot in aperture priority all my events and stuff, which is like, I guess, sort of automatic, sort of not. And that means I'm just picking the aperture that I want to shoot at and letting the camera decide the shutter and the ISO. That being said, I do set the parameters for minimum shutter, maximum ISO, and then I use exposure compensation to decide if I want it to be brighter or darker.
Nice.
I don't know if that helps.
Solid. Let's see.
How often will, because I ran into a couple situations where I mainly take photos in aperture priority, but a couple times I was like, oh, specifically I want to do like a slow shutter thing. Like, do you ever in wedding situations like realize like, oh, I need to take this one in manual, or like I'm going to do something where
Oh,
like
yeah.
going into like a certain part of it that you want to do something different?
Uh, Not typically. I mean, I think if there was a specific photo that I wanted to get with a slower or faster shutter for some reason, I would. But I don't know. Creatively, there's never really been a moment where I need to do that. I think
Yeah.
I did get a photo, and I think I may have sent it to you guys. I did get a photo of like the grand exit this past weekend going through Sparklers,
Mm-hmm.
and I was moving so fast. I was hoping that the shutter would be slower because I knew it would be. It was just darker, and it came out really well with the motion and like the slower shutter. But I didn't purposely move into manual for that. That being said, the way to shoot manual, this Bergman concept is that you set your ISO and you're just cool with that. Like that's it. Like you're cool with 3200 or you're cool with 6400 or you're cool with whatever. You figure out your f-stop and then all you're writing is your shutter, which means like that's how you change your exposure is using the shutter based on the situation, which is fine if you're cool with a very specific ISO. And all his stuff is usually going on Instagram or going on the internet. So, and he's okay with grain. And so, that'd be the other way. Sorry, I started getting on a soapbox.
Leo
that's
also
a really
agrees with you about the aperture priority.
Thanks, Leo.
I will also say that brings up a really important point of whatever camera you're taking photos with, do some tests early on and figure out what ISO you're comfortable with. And yeah, tried in a couple different scenarios, but I think knowing that when going into event photography or even just portraits, same thing with a client, like how high of an ISO can you go and still be comfortable with your end result and not be coming back like, oh, none of these are usable.
Totally.
Which more and more AI is probably going to change the concept of ISO for all of us. But for now, it's a good thing to pay attention to.
A couple follow-up questions related. For portrait photography, Arcusman asks, auto or manual?
I do shoot manual for portrait photography if it's in studio and I'm working with a flash. If I'm out in the wild, I'll still shoot aperture priority. For me, it's like the less I have to think about my camera and the more I can be interacting with the person in front of me or the more I can be like, present, the better.
Yeah. And just to like clarify again for people who are newer, I think the reason why you choose aperture priority over shutter priority or full auto is it gives you that creative choice of the look that a wide open aperture gives if you want that super wide open aperture, blurry background, nice bokeh in the background. You lock down your aperture at whatever you want, which for portrait photography, like what does that mean typically for both of you? Are you, I think a lot of people might assume you open up to the widest aperture your lens goes, but for portrait photography, you guys, that's probably not what you guys do, right?
Depends. Yeah.
Okay.
I think like my headshot, like for actors and like on a stage or on a studio with like a light, I usually shoot around a 2.8 or a 4,
Mm-hmm.
even if my lens can open up to a 1.7 or a 1.8 or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
4 is like a really nice sweet spot for lenses. I also don't want to get one eye in focus and one eye not in focus
Yeah.
because that sort of defeats the purpose for those types of shots. Portraits out in the wild, I'm a little bit more liberal with that. It just depends on what you're trying to like sort of like express or say or what that person's doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely typically close, yeah, more f4, f8, depending on sort of the situation, which focal length. If
Mm-hmm.
it's a more telephoto lens, I'm probably at more of an f8. If it's a more wide open one, f4 is perfectly fine,
Mm-hmm.
because that changes how much is in focus, is the focal length as well, not just the f-stop. But I always like to shoot a couple wide open just because funky stuff happens and you get some sort of different looks. And um, but yeah, if it's not an artsy thing, typically
Mm-hmm.
closing down more is, it's going to be cleaner, it's going to be crispier. Even if you have like a cheaper lens, shooting at f4 or f8 is going to make it look just as sharp as a really expensive lens.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that those other expensive lenses can open up wider and still
Yeah.
look decent. So um, yeah.
Cool. We've got a lot of good questions, and I'll hit one more before we get to the from above photo challenge, shot from above photo challenge. And there's one, Deborah, you posted that you feel like you have so many questions you need to ask, but I just don't know enough to ask them. Well, just try us. We'll help you out. So just let it out. Whatever it is, let it out. We
Give us a
had,
place to start and we'll just rant for a little
yeah,
bit.
yeah. A lot of good questions. Also, Carlos and Very were sharing their photo adventures for this coming weekend. Carlos, good luck on your photo walk. Um, just yeah, that's awesome. Arkisman also asks a quick question: free alternatives of Lightroom because it's expensive. Yeah, it is damn expensive. I have not tried Dark Table. That's one that people. It's like the free open source kind of competitor with Lightroom. Affinity Photo is definitely one I would check out because it's you still have to pay for it, but it's a one-time fee rather than the subscription. And I don't know why I'm blanking on any other free alternatives, but I'll post them in the chat if I think of any. You guys have any free photo
No,
Those are
those
the
are the
editing?
ones I would do.
ones.
Okay, let's get to the From Above photo challenge. And again, I brought up one of my favorites. This is from Jose. I really like this shot from above. Tells a really nice story and is also very artistic and fun, playing with chalk. But also, we got the great subject in the bottom as well, showcasing, giving us a little bit of info about the size and the proportions of this. This was shot on a Mavic Air.
Oh, wow. That's
So
cool.
cool.
So I really like that one.
Yeah, that
Um,
was one of my favorites as well. It's a really fun perspective, and obviously having the drone being able to get straight down from the top
yeah,
helps.
yeah.
Um,
That lens, it's like super bowed. It. I wonder if that
It is
could.
because they're so close. I mean, it's
Yeah,
like if it's a Mavic, it's a real wide lens.
yeah. That's why, huh?
The closer you get to the subject, the more that, yeah, that more
Yeah.
that bowing is going to happen.
I really
Um.
like Juliana Hayden's of the jalapenos covered in Cajun powder.
Oh yeah.
Right there. It's very moody. I probably maybe
Brighten
it
it
could
up
be a little
just a
bit
little bit.
brighter, but
Yeah.
I mean, black background, the orange and the greens. it's yeah, I don't know. It's just a very
That's cool.
pleasing shot. Yeah.
I think yeah, I like this one, but I think for me it's too dark, and I think the color white balance is just a little bit off. It's a little bit warm. I feel like the black or green, even like the black background has a little green tint to it. So just like fixing that, brightening up for me would make it better. But the composition, love it. I mean, who knows?
Yeah.
Maybe this was in like a restaurant or something with super dim lighting, but really cool shot. Oh, very. I didn't notice this one. This was of you flying
Very cool.
above Sicily. That's awesome.
That was the day after I left them.
Nice. That's so cool.
Wow.
I want to do that. Will or Sam, any other ones you want me to bring up?
No, those are the ones
Those
that I.
those are my main ones. Yeah.
This reminds me of that scene, like the last scene in Inception, where it's like that snowy
Yeah.
tower thing. That's
I think that's what it is.
is that?
The dream inside the dream inside the dream inside the
Yeah.
dream.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
the last one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's dope. Cool. Well, thank you again for everyone participating. We are going to go through our last photo challenge in just a minute, which was faces. We'll pop this up in a second, but let's get back to our questions, which we've got more. Thank you, everyone. Hit that like button.
Yeah.
So many people being active here with us today. Love it.
Yeah,
Let's
there's
go.
40 people watching, but only 7 likes. I'm
What?
confused by that.
What?
That was actually me. I liked it 7 times.
Oh, well,
Frank
that makes
has a follow-up to that, or not a follow-up, but another editing question. How important is editing software with regard to quality of photo and good photo video editing product? This is where I have not dived deep enough. Like there's some people who are like pixel peeping, like looking at every single pixel and say that like an editing software like Capture One reads Fujifilm files better than Lightroom, blah, 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 and it's sharper. And if you look under a microscope, maybe you can see some differences. But for general purpose editing, I don't know. I'm not that
I don't think it matters.
yeah. I don't.
As long
I
as
don't
it's
care
a
about that.
popular editing program, they're all going to be great and fine.
Yeah.
I've been disappointed with when certain new file types or new cameras came out, it took Lightroom a little bit long to read them, and I definitely had some weird pixel stuff happen with my Sony with Lightroom, and then I downloaded a free trial of Capture One, and it definitely, I thought, read it better.
Mm-hmm.
Now that being said, eventually Lightroom caught up and those issues went away. But I don't know. I have had issues where I've considered switching to like Capture One or something like that. But it's really, I mean, it's in like, you know, long exposure night star stuff where there's weird color shifting happening in the night sky and stuff. But
Yeah.
by and large, yeah, probably not going to notice the difference.
In terms of recommended products, I think we all use Adobe, which we're kind of, once you get in the Adobe system, it's kind of hard to be going in and out using other tools. So Adobe Lightroom or Lightroom Classic for editing. I still use Adobe Lightroom Classic for my editing. They have the newer Lightroom version, which is their cloud-based app, which is great. I think, Will, you use that a lot for traveling, like on your iPad, editing photos on your iPad and stuff.
Yeah, all my personal stuff I use just straight up Lightroom. And then I use Lightroom Classic for my professional stuff.
I mean, Lightroom Classic, I feel like is just a lot easier still to use if you're batch editing a lot from like a full professional shoot or something like that. The big alternatives are Affinity Photo. A lot of people have mentioned Luminar Neo as an alternative, Capture One, but also a free alternative that you guys might want to check out if you just don't have the budget is just use the Photos app that's on your Windows or your Mac computer. Those have most of the capabilities that most photographers need to edit a raw photo. So I think the difference with Lightroom and these other tools is when it comes into masking and editing specific parts of an image. And as AI tools get added to all these apps, things are going to be better in Lightroom, where you can reduce noise now with AI in an incredible way, or upscale resolution with these tools. But for basic editing, just like the Photos app is totally fine. All right, I'm sure we got a lot more
We have
questions.
so more questions. Yeah.
Uh, Deborah asks, you talk about setting parameters with aperture priority. Where are those located? I have a Canon
Actually looked this up while we were waiting for this.
D70.
On her camera, on most Canons, it's designated on the top left dial, and it'll say like there's like a P and a TV and an AV and an M. The AV is the aperture priority. It starts with A. P would be program, and M would be manual. And I think TV is shutter, which T on Canon stands for like time. So yeah,
Is she asking too about like how you can set max ISO
maybe.
perhaps? Like, so I'm not exactly sure where that is though, but within,
Oh, is that what she's asking?
I don't
Yeah.
know. Someone might be asking because you can have aperture priority mode where you're locking down your aperture, but you can also tell your camera not to go above a 1600 ISO. I just don't know where that is on that particular
Yeah, I
camera.
don't know exactly where that would be on that camera, but it's probably wherever your ISO setting is in your menu. So if you go and you can find ISO in your menu in the back screen, it's probably in there. It'll probably say auto ISO parameters or auto ISO settings.
Yeah.
And that's where you would set it. And you can do the same thing for shutter usually.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know exactly where that is because I'm not Canon
Yeah, like
folk.
minimum. Yeah. I would just, if you need a tutorial, I would just search on YouTube or on Google how to set max ISO on a Canon, or how to
Yeah,
set minimum shutter speed on a Canon,
that'll
and
be
that should
all
be
over
there.
YouTube.
Yeah. Let's see. Minimum. Oh, this is a good question. Denise asks, is there a minimum distance you should be to your subject for 85 millimeter portraits? They find it kind of tight and unflattering, especially if you're on a crop sensor camera. That's going to be pretty tight, but I know we all have used 80-ish lens for portraits. So what do you guys say? You need space.
Uh,
Just back up more if you
yeah,
want it less close.
Mm.
yeah. I don't
If you
know
don't
that
have
there's a
that
like a
space though,
rule.
then like maybe it's not the right lens.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I,
if you know
you
the
know,
space, but that I mean, at 85 on a crop sensor is a 120-ish, 120, 130-ish. Should be
yeah,
a great
130.
portrait lens, and if you back way up and do a full body shot with that lens, it's gonna look great. It'll have nice fall off. Um,
I don't.
yeah.
I don't think there's a minimum, but like I don't know if you guys remember taking sound class at LMU, but there's something that always stuck with me with one of our sound teachers, and he was like, "Listen to it. If it sounds good, it's good. If it's not good, it's not good." And I know that's like very rudimentary, but if you're there and you're shooting with an 85, if it looks too close, like Sam said, just back up, like
Mm-hmm.
back up until it looks good,
Yeah.
or get close. But there's no like minimum required distance. I would just say to like, don't cut off their heads
Mm-hmm.
or their haircut. Don't give them haircuts and start there.
Yeah. There was someone in our lighting um, group, and they're sharing some photos, and I think the main thing, at least when I go to take photos, like even if you're taking just, well, if you're taking just a headshot of someone, just okay, it's sort of this framing. But if you're trying to do sort of a creative portrait shoot with someone, like get the classic frame, get a really close up frame, like try different poses, but then also step way back and use the environment you're in, and like get a full body shot, get one a full body with negative space, like try different looks to get different, to get some diversity within the photos that you walk away with. And
Mm-hmm.
85 might be great for the full body shot. It might be great for the close up shots, or maybe it's that you need to switch to a 50 millimeter because you don't have the space, or a 35, or whatever. The
Mm-hmm.
only time that I think focal length makes people look weird really is like a really wide angle lens, really close is like a very specific look.
Yeah.
Um, but like that focal length should be very flattering for them technically
Yeah.
if you have the space.
Luciana recommends raw therapy as a free alternative
What a good
for
name
photo
for an
editing.
editing program.
Yeah, and I believe it's therapy with e at the end. I'm pretty sure. But thank you for that. Another editing question, Bill asks about how much RAM we have on our
Ooh.
machines for editing, and Ryan responded that he has 32. I will say that I upgraded. I have my iMac and I have 128 on this, but that's because I do video editing. I wanted to
128.
max it out as much as I could at the time.
Dang.
I think nowadays I would recommend 32. 16 can get you by, I would say, but I would say 32 with the file sizes and how intense these applications are. I mean, the more the better, honestly. I
Yeah,
don't know. Do you guys know what you guys have?
I have 32 on my little MacBook Air, and it like can run through Lightroom fine. It's a little slow exporting,
Mm-hmm.
but it's also an M2 chip, so that also helps. My main editing computer, which I'm on right now at the studio display, is an M1 Max with 64 gigs, and that is plenty enough for what I
Mm-hmm.
need to be doing, and video too, honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm running a M2 Max with 96 gigabytes,
Oh my
and
god.
I should I was editing a 4K timeline of like a 8-minute video,
Yeah,
and no
it's
no
fine.
issues. Yeah,
Yeah. See, we all do video stuff, so we're maxed out a little bit
And
more.
I'm
But
not on M2, which plays a difference because I'm
yeah,
editing 4K stuff and it sometimes can be chunky, with my 128 gigabytes. So, yeah.
but newer ones, I'd say the M2 with only 32 gigs is probably fine.
Yeah.
yeah. Newer chips with over 32, you're going to be sailing through it.
Yeah.
Um, so
Katie has a great question about Photoshop and Lightroom and when to use each. What percentage of time do we bring
Ooh.
photos into Photoshop? I know for myself, I rarely bring in photos to Photoshop. I use Photoshop mostly for compositing multiple images together for graphic design. However, I would say that for I just put out my real estate photography class, and in a technique of combining different images called the flambient technique, you do use Photoshop for that technique. So, and it's not possible in Lightroom. So, there's when you're combining images for that case, yeah, I use Photoshop, but in terms of just general editing, I'm rarely doing it now because Lightroom has so many of the capabilities now of even for portrait editing and editing specific parts of an image. But when do you guys use Photoshop compared to Lightroom, or do you guys? Bill, you do, right?
I feel like I'm gonna answer this because I probably do it the most. But I probably say when I'm editing a wedding, 5% of it is in Photoshop. But like you said, it's changed over the years. It used to be like more like 40% because Photoshop had a better way of editing portraits. But now that Lightroom has gotten so advanced, I can do pretty much like 90%, 90 to 95% in Lightroom. The only time I'll send a photo to Photoshop is if I need to take something out of the background or if I need to do heavy lifting with like stray hairs and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Mm-hmm.
the stamp and clone tool in Photoshop is just infinitely better and easier to handle.
Yeah.
Um, and I can zoom in more and it's just easier to move around. But then, yeah, taking things out of the background, much easier in Photoshop with layers and content fill and stuff like that. But
Yeah.
most of the time, yeah, Lightroom does a lot.
Sam, any thoughts?
I don't use Photoshop.
Mic drop. Okay.
Easy. Yeah.
Cool.
See,
I've never gotten into the place where, I mean, Lightroom definitely can't do it all, but I've never
man, I remember a
I
time
mean
when I refused to use Lightroom.
right. Well, and now it's gotten that much better. Like you can
Yeah,
do so much with Lightroom, like just
I
with
was so anti it.
editing the sky versus the, or the subject, opposed to everything else. But yeah, it just always was a bit beyond me. in
This
terms of, I
feels
mean, it's the same way like autofocus. Like it used to be only manual focus, but autofocus is faster now.
Oh, this
So
conversation makes me feel old. I remember a time being anti autofocus and anti Lightroom.
yeah, yeah. Or the idea of doing aperture priority, even
That
like
too. Yeah.
the cameras were not fast enough. They did not do it well, and they would mess up. And
Let the computers think for me.
Ricardo has a question about a lens for real estate photography, the Fuji 8mm 3.5. That is a pretty solid lens. I mean, on a
Yeah.
crop sensor camera, 8mm is still pretty wide. You might get a little bit of bowing on the edges, but even for me, when I was practicing with different lenses, even 10 millimeters, the 10 millimeter lens I got, the Samyang, just to practice it with it,
Samyang gang.
it was still kind of tight for a couple situations, which is crazy. But definitely like yeah, I don't see a problem with that lens, and 3.5 is totally fine if you're on a tripod inside. So absolutely.
definitely on a tripod, like, or definitely bring a tripod, I guess,
Yeah.
because you might need to do some slow shutter speeds if yeah, depending on how light is. But
We got a couple more questions. Let's get a couple more. We'll hit the faces challenge and then wrap it out
Oh,
with
did
any
you?
other questions. What,
Oh,
Will?
go ahead. No, you're good. I was gonna
Oh,
say I was gonna volunteer a question, but you're on it.
okay. Prashanti asks, with the D3400 doing indoor events, suggestions for lighting to take better photos. Take the lighting boot camp with Will.
Well, with indoor with events, it's a little bit harder because you can't really like set up a ton of lights, but an onboard external flash with a diffuser will probably do you great if you're just trying to do photos of people. If you're
Mm-hmm.
taking photos of an event like someone speaking or someone on stage, chances are like you'll be okay with the lighting that's up there. You just have to like be cognizant of your exposure.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, an event where you're photographing groups of people on board, external flash with a diffuser is probably the best way to go. It's a great camera
yeah,
though, D30.
and I will say, like, if it's someone giving a speech or something like that, candids, like, get what you can get. Anytime though that, and if you need to be subtle, no flash, while they're giving a speech, don't do
Yeah.
that. But anytime if you're being brought on to the event to take those photos, try and set up like, oh, before they give their talk or after they give a talk, I'd love like just off to the side to get a nice photo of you. And at that point, use your flash or find a place where you have nice lighting that's going to be more flattering than just like overhead top down lights.
This
The more that you can control it, the better. And the rest is going to be, hoping that you get them in not direct overhead light or something like that.
Can I make a deep argument for Lightroom right now? This might be on a tangent, but like
Go ahead.
if I know we're talking about free editing programs, but like honestly, at the end of the day, like Lightroom and Capture One really, but more Lightroom has become the sort of industry standard for like the most professional program. Their new denoiser for like denoising stuff to like take out the grain,
Mm-hmm.
I think is like worth its weight in gold. Like if you can afford to pay for Lightroom and
Oh,
not have to spend all that money on like a flash or a faster lens, then you can take your D3400 and crank up the ISO and fix it in Lightroom later. So really your money's going into the program for editing, for a powerful editing program versus like a better camera or a better lens or a better flash. So I don't know, just food for thought.
No, that's great. This is a question that was related to another one earlier. I don't know if Brittany, it was you asking, but someone was asking about using presets. And this question is, do you use a preset as a base for editing to keep your portfolio consistent? If so, which do you use that's versatile for different lighting situations, or do you make your own? I don't have a consistent look. Like you look at some photographers on Instagram and all of their photos
Photographers.
look the same and have the exact same color palette, saturation style. And I think for some people that's fine, but I just don't do that. So I think that presets are sometimes I will start with a preset for sure for a lot of editing in a set. And I created a bunch of presets, which you get for free in all of our photo courses, actually. And you can get them if you go to photographyandfriends.com, go to presets, you can get all of these packs, which are great. You can buy them, but if you're in the class, any of the classes, our photography classes, our Lightroom class, they're all included in there in a section. So a lot of these are great for just getting started. But I don't know. What do you guys do with presets? No.
I don't use them.
Yeah.
I don't. I was just like, I just opened up my own portfolio to look at my website just to be like, is everything looking consistent? Like, and generally it is. I mean, I think you start to decide how you edit and you lean into that. I know like 30% of my photos are black and white, so the contrast is probably similar. But if you start to edit for so long, you start to develop your own look, and you can create presets. But I guess it depends on what you're doing. Like if you're doing portraits, that might be easier to do than like events, let's say. But
Mm-hmm.
Well, and that's, I think, a really important thing to say is that, like, I don't know, going, like, being in the dark room or learning Lightroom and how you're going to edit your photos. Like, yes, you can use presets. You could probably ask an AI to take your entire portfolio and make them all look like the same aesthetic. Um, but when you learn to edit the photos yourself, you learn what your eye likes and you'll start creating your own sort of approach. Every photo situation is going to be different. You can't blanket use the same presets always, because whether it's like a high contrast or a low contrast, if there's a lot of greens, if there's a lot of reds, any of those
it's
presets are
cloudy.
going
If
to
it's
react.
not cloudy. Yeah.
Yeah, all those presets are going to react to those differences in a different way. So to say like, oh, this is a summer preset, and so everything becomes more orange, well, a very green photo or a very tan photo is going to react different to that preset. So
Yeah. That's a
learning how
huge.
you achieve those looks in your own work comes from editing them.
Yeah.
And so, anyone that says like, "Oh, I take a photo and it looks perfect and I never edit my photos," it's like, well, okay, you're missing a huge part of, I think, photography, which is editing photos to look the style that you want them to look. And in darkroom days, we would do this as well. Like, you would decide creatively how you're going to make that photo look through editing. So, um,
It's a huge point, though, to understand if you do start to use presets and you're looking at the sample images, even the ones on the packs that we've created, it's not like you're just going to slap on that preset and it's going to look amazing. It really does depend on the lighting and colors of the original photo.
yeah.
So one note, and then let's get to the faces challenge if we have a minute. I'm not sure how you guys are on time, but one quick note.
Okay.
People on the style course, it just made me think. So a lot of people have been asking about classes of ours and where to find them. We've got so many classes on all kinds of things, from editing to improving your photography style to the wedding photography course that was just updated
Yeah, it
a
was.
couple months ago, landscape photography. And you can find these all if you go to videoschool.com. That's the easiest place to find a link to all of our photography courses, as well as our video courses and design courses and
Yeah.
everything else. You can also find links at photographyandfriends.com. But just, yeah, putting it out there so that people know how to find these courses. And by going through these links on the website, it helps us out more, because you guys probably understand that we have to share the revenue with the platforms we put our courses on. And if you go through these links, it helps us out even more. So thank you for that. And thank you for being great students. Let's get to the Faces Photo Challenge. And again, I'm just bringing up the one that I really like. This is from
Yeah,
Z
that's the one I would
Leica.
have picked too. Yeah.
The the colors in this photo are great. The lighting is great. This is, I don't know, maybe shot with like an 85 or something like that. Maybe a 50, but great bokeh in the background. Great
This looks
composition.
like the kid of a photographer.
Yeah.
Like, really, you're taking the camera out again?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, love the fall off, love the lighting. I love the edit. It's a little desaturated. It looks like
Mm-hmm.
it's later in the day. Like, yeah, good
A little bit of
composition.
backlight on the hair, separating them from the background.
Hmm.
Yeah, that was a good one. Any others that you want to bring up? This was crazy. Ryan, I didn't. Okay, so what was
Yeah,
it? A
that's fun.
5-second exposure. White fiber. That is crazy. That is cool.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a super. I mean, the stylistic piece of that is really
Yeah.
really cool.
Yeah, that's
Wait,
cool.
5 second exposure.
I can
Is that smoke?
tell which the common
With white fiber.
model that we all have is our kids that are probably like, you got to take another photo. This one I really thought was great though, Jose. This is the 100mm, and this is a great example of a completely different style of portrait where it's like, get in there tight, close up, and maybe with that 85mm, you take a cool sort of cropped photo like this where it's not like a standard one. But really, I really like this one. Sharp on the eye for sure.
Yeah.
Cool.
Very nice.
All right. This week's photo challenge is the negative space. This is a good one, guys. This is one you should all be participating in.
Yeah.
We all love our negative space photos. So thank you to everyone who has posted so far. If you're not in Plus, join Plus. It's free. Join so that you can submit your photos here. And if you are a member, make sure you're sharing some love and thoughts and ideas. Oh my gosh, that's a beautiful photo, Jose. Share some love with the photographers here. So yeah, do that. I don't know. Are there any other questions we should hit up while we do that? Thank you to all of our supporting members. As always, we really, really appreciate you being members.
I can run through a couple. Go ahead, Sam.
Go ahead, Will. No, you go. You go.
Oh, there's a black and white question about your photo being too flat. I would say, like, just add contrast in post and like look for bright and dark areas. I was just gonna try and zoom through stuff fast. Yeah, but that was really the only big question, right?
Yeah, I don't think there.
What are you doing to get people feel better, natural in front of you while shooting greetings? I mean, just try to connect with people, talk to people. Sam always is really good at that. Say like, just don't pick your camera up right away. Like, talk with people, form a connection. You don't need to start shooting right away. Like, you can ease into it because a lot of times, like, however they're feeling is going to come across in your photo.
Well, and Will, I mean, if you're doing like portraits or wedding, you do a really good job at that. And I would suggest to Tina, check out the wedding photography course because you do some demos, and you can see Will interacting with the people he's photographing and kind of get some ideas for what you might want to say or do to be able to interact with them and make everyone feel comfortable, because that is hard though, especially when you're starting out.
Is my video quality getting really bad? It looks
a little bit pixelated.
But yeah, to that point, like and we talk about it in a number of our courses, but be a person, interact with the person, like whether it's a client, whether it's a family member, whatever, like getting someone to be at ease or just like enjoy the process is going to go a long way. And that's where learning the technical stuff is important. So you're not focused on that. You're focused on your interaction with this person. I have a photo shoot next Friday with someone who I know is deathly afraid of being in front of camera. And so I'm bringing her good friend along just to be a hype woman and like make her feel good. I'll take some photos of them as well, just to like lighten the mood. Like having some music on goes a long way. Like just these little things.
Music is helpful. Yeah.
So yeah, just something to think about.
Gideon asked about joining a course. I'm not sure which one you're talking about, but I commented in the comments. Any of our classes can be found at videoschool.com and going to the photo page, or on photographyandfriends.com and going to the courses page. So with that,
yeah, you got it.
All right. Live stream. So
there it is. That's the one.
Everyone, thank you for being here. Will and Sam, thank you for doing everything you do, my friends. Join Plus.
Thank you, Phil.
Thank you, Phil. Phil,
Lighting
this is
Bootcamp
great.
members, you have a live stream tomorrow, right?
Tomorrow.
Your third
Tomorrow.
meeting. People can
Yep.
still join if you want to jump in late to the boot camp, right?
Yeah, I suppose they can,
yeah.
but you only get two
Yeah.
lighting boot camps. But that course will be live on Udemy and Video School. At the end of the month? Next month?
Yeah, I'll probably launch it in July or something.
Yeah.
So, yeah, everyone, keep taking photos, keep posting them, keep tagging us, sharing them with us. We always appreciate it. And get out there.
Yeah.
Go
Thanks for being here.
make stuff.
Bye.
All right. Have a beautiful week, guys. See ya. Bye.
Wanna be?